So, okay, here we go. Third time lucky. Guess chaos on the street today. I'll let you know on the Good Morning Walk what's been going on. But oh, my word. So anyway, it looks like that possibly in maybe the next couple of weeks we will potentially see what Sunak's proposal is going to be with the EU about the Northern Ireland Protocol. Now, we don't know what it's going to entail. We've heard no snippets, no drops, or anything like that at the moment. But as always, the two big stumbling blocks, or at least the two big roadblocks, or at least hurdles Sunak has to clear to get this deal done, of course, first of all, will be the DUP and, of course, the ERG. First of all, the DUP has to be happy with any terms or at least agreements that are made to get them back into Stormont, back into power sharing, and at least so that Northern Ireland can have a functioning government again. And of course, as I've said multiple times, what I think the DUP is doing to Northern Ireland by depriving them of a government, especially at this moment in time, is absolutely unfair to the people of Northern Ireland. Not only unfair to the people who didn't vote for them, but even unfair to the people who did actually vote to the DUP themselves. And I think they are using this as a really stupid opportunity to try and rebel against something that they agreed for, no more than 2-3 years ago at this point. So yeah, madness. But the other thing as well, I think should be certainly Keir Starmer should be doing, and I said this already, so I think this would be a good idea. But if Sunak's deal is good, and it is in the national interest, and it is in the national interest to make sure that the Northern Ireland Protocol works, he should go, look, if this deal works and you need Labour support to get this over the line, we will support you, so long as this deal is good and it's in the national interest. So that is a good deal. That is a good promise from Keir Starmer, and I'm glad he is agreeing to do that, because this is something that, if it is not solved, could have big ramifications. And we've talked about those ramifications before in the past. Like I say, the Belfast Telegraph article that we've commented on a couple of times about what was called off. And of course, I won't need to, shall we say what was called off. Of course, YouTube terms of service and all that jazz. So on with the show, because it looks like, once again, the DUP are certainly not going to be happy with this deal regardless. But let's get on with this then, shall we? But before we do that, please do remember to hit that like, share, and subscribe button. And of course, down below, there are links to my Patreon page, my one-off donation link called Buy Me Coffee. We can, buy me coffee. There's the YouTube thank you button. There's the Pony Club. There's all that good stuff down below. And of course, do remember as well to ring the bell. So, as always, let's crack on with this then, shall we? So, this comes from The Guardian with the title of DUP wants Sunak not to leave Northern Ireland abandoned to the EU. So, the DUP have warned Rishi Sunak that the party will not return to power sharing if he leaves Northern Ireland abandoned to the EU under any new deal that he cuts with Brussels over the Brexit trading agreements for the region. Sammy Wilson, the MP for East Armagh, told the BBC Radio 4's Today programme that if the deal the Prime Minister is expected to share with the Northern Ireland's political partners in Belfast on Friday must meet the 7 conditions laid down before it returns to power sharing. And those 7 conditions pretty much sum up to there can be no border in the Irish Sea. As far as the DUP is concerned, it does not matter. There can be no border in the Irish Sea. But of course, as we said, if you rip up the Northern Ireland Agreement and you take away the border in the Irish Sea, where are you going to put the border? You cannot put it between the North and Republic because of the Good Friday Agreement. And of course, ultimately, the DUP's true goal is to destroy the Good Friday Agreement because they hate the Good Friday Agreement. But anyway, let's get on with it to see what he had to say. So he had to say this. What we want to hear from him, most importantly, is whether negotiations have reached in removing the automatic application of EU law to Northern Ireland without any democratic input from the representatives in Northern Ireland and without any ability to change those laws if they are detrimental to Northern Ireland, he said. Well, If we were in the EU, Northern Ireland would technically have a say. Of course, it would be part of sort of the UK, and the UK body, you, you know, but this is what the DUP wanted. This is what they were big champions for Brexit. So once again, you see the exact same thing from the Brexiteers, that the DUP do not understand what on earth they were voting for, what they wanted, and what the consequences would be if we left the EU. But he continues. He said Northern Ireland had been left abandoned to the EU by the Brexit agreements agreed by Boris Johnson in 2019 that obliges Northern Ireland to observe EU laws to avoid a hard border on the island of Ireland. Exactly. That is the whole point, to avoid a hard border. That is why those agreements are in place, and the DUP do not like that. So, in a sign that the deal is imminent, so we could maybe see something today, or at least maybe see, who knows, we could know by this weekend. The EU has also summoned diplomats from its 27 member states for a briefing on Friday morning with the UK Foreign Secretary James Cleverly in Brussels for further meetings with the European Commissioner Vice President Markus Solvak. A deal has been on the cards for the last 4 weeks and is expected to include a settlement on the elimination of some of the checks going from Great Britain to Northern Ireland and a new dispute resolution mechanism not involving the European Court of Justice in the first instance. So, okay, they're trying to sort of not eliminate the ECJ completely, but initially, if there is a problem, they don't go to the European Court of Justice, but ultimately it would end up in the European Court of Justice by looks of it, if that first court can't solve it. But the elimination of the application of EU laws seems unlikely, as this would entail a complete renegotiation of the principles that lie behind the protocol, which again, you can see the DUP already not going to be happy with this deal. So it doesn't matter what they do, the DUP ain't going back into Stormont, because we've said from the very moment this whole started, as long as the border in the Irish Sea, they ain't going back into power sharing. So Wilson said that the party would want to see that, quote, Northern Ireland was not separated legally from the rest of the United Kingdom. He hinted that any role of the ECJ would remain an issue for the DUP, with Wilson pointing out that, quote, oversight only occurs to ensure that EU law applies in Northern Ireland. It is believed that the deal on the table includes a fudge for removing the EU powers to go directly to the ECJ for a decision if it feels the trade rule has been breached, with an arbitration panel involving Northern Ireland and EU judges created as the first point of call for any dispute. Sunak is expected to try and reassure the DUP that this new deal complies with the strict 7 tests the DUP set in exchange for its support. It's not going to, because one of those key points, in fact, they all pretty much allude to the same thing: get rid of that border in the Irish Sea. That is what they care about most. Doesn't matter about anything else. It's the border in the Irish Sea, because I guarantee you, and I will be very shocked if they see this and they go back in. I will be very, very shocked indeed. Meanwhile, David Jones, the deputy chairman of the European Research Group, said that that it is in lockstep with the DUP between the Northern Ireland must cease to be subject to the laws made in Brussels. So, of course, the ERG going to be causing trouble as well. He said, it is simple as that. He said, anything less won't work. Well, unfortunately, how do you solve this problem then? If if I was Sunak, I'd be calling up these ERG folks and actually tackling them head on, saying, look, you caused this, you wanted this, what's your stupid idea? And start calling them out for their ridiculous ideas. But of course, Sunak is as weak as a school child in a field of adults. Quite frankly, no one cares for his opinion, and no one would really care if he gave it, because he is that politically weak. So, speaking on Thursday night, Ireland's Deputy Prime Minister Michael Martin said that negotiations had been serious and substantive, but said that further decisions were due over the weekend, when Sunak is expected to meet the Commission President Ursula von der Leyen on the sidelines for a security conference in Munich. I have no doubt that the British Prime Minister, in advance of further discussions over the week and next weekend, he wants to try and ascertain from the political parties of Northern Ireland a sense of various positions that they have a relation to the protocol, he said. Talks had been serious and substantive, and trust has been built between the UK and EU negotiators, he added. That's good. That is very good, the fact that there has been trust there. But, as I've said before, I don't think this deal is going to be accepted. I would be shocked. I would be shocked if the DUP turned around and said, yeah, deal perfect. Because, as we've always said, if you've seen those 7 pledges they've got, they all pretty much are along the same line. Get rid of that border in the Irish Sea. They don't care about anything else. They just want rid of that border in the Irish Sea. And not only that, the ERG want to pull Northern Ireland out of the Single Market and Customs Union. Why? Because they do not want essentially a test case for, well, this part of the UK is in the Single Market and Customs Union. Look how well it is doing compared to this other area that's, in the UK that's not in the Single Market Customs Union. Look how well it's not performing versus Northern Ireland. That is what they want to try and avoid at all costs. So that's why they're all for to try to drag it out, regardless of any of the ramifications. They do not care because, A, they don't understand certainly the political sort of anything about Northern Ireland, full stop. They also do not understand Brexit. They also do not understand international trade and the way it works. They do not understand the consequences of what Brexit would actually do when thrown into all that mix, and especially when you throw it into sort of Northern Ireland. It's going to be interesting. It is going to be interesting, but I suspect we will probably see, if the DUP do not like this deal, then expect probably either today, maybe over the weekend, maybe even early next week, the DUP will start leaking. This is what's in the deal. This is why we can't support it, and they will be up in arms. So expect that to see coming in probably the next couple of days or so. But yeah, I don't think this deal is going to work. I think Sunak is too politically weak to really make it work as much as he wants. His only way to make it work is he has to take on the ERG. He has to. He has to face them down. He also has to face down the DUP. And so far, Sunak has not shown any political willingness to take on any faction in his own political party head on. And if he wants to try and solve the Northern Ireland Protocol problem, then he has to take head on the ERG. It is his only option. That is why, Sunak extending a hand of, hey, if this helps solve the Northern Ireland Protocol, we will help back you, is a good call from Keir Starmer, because solving the Northern Ireland Protocol is in the national interest. So, as always, thank you very much for watching. Please do remember to hit that like, whatever. And of course, as always, guys, links down below. All that good stuff. Please do remember to ring the bell as well. And of course, as always, we'll see you all next time.